Hello students, this is Bijay sir, your chemistry teacher. Today I have made a video for you, students of class 9th, under your first chapter, Matter in Our Surrounding. The topic of this video is states of matter. In the previous video, I discussed with you about chemistry, matter, properties of matter, characteristics of the particles of matter, etc. etc. You know, popularly, the matter in our surroundings are classified into three different physical states, and these three different physical states of matter are solid, liquid, and gas. The first state of matter is solid. First of all, I will describe these three states of matter in short, and then after we shall discuss these states of matter in some detail. The solid means simply the state of matter which have definite volume and definite shape. All those matters in our surrounding which occupy definite volume and possess definite shape are solid form of matter. Common examples of solid states of matter are wood, coal, graphite, diamond, iron, silver, gold, etc. The second state of matter is liquid state of matter. In the liquid state of matter, the volume is definite, but the shape of the liquid is not definite, indefinite shape. The most common example of liquid is the drinking water. If you will take the water in a plate, it acquires the shape of plate, and when you will pour the same volume of water in a cup, in a glass, means in any of the containers, the water will acquire the shape of that container in which it is kept. The liquid occupies same volume, definite volume, but indefinite shape. The examples of liquid are water, milk, diesel, petrol, kerosene, etc. The third state of matter is gaseous state of matter. Gas. Gases do not have definite volume and definite shape. Means the state of matter which have neither definite shape, neither definite volume, nor definite shape. Examples of gases are carbon dioxide, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur dioxide, ammonia, methane, etc. These are three common states of matter. Now, these days, in addition to these three different states of matter, two other states of matter are also in the discussion in the science. They are plasma and Einstein condensate. In short, it is called BEC, Bose-Einstein condensate. About these two states of matter, that is plasma and BEC, I shall discuss in the next video. Today, in this video, we have to describe about these three different states of matter in detail. Now, we should start solid states of matter in detail. As we discussed, solids have definite volume and definite shape. Due to high intermolecular force, in the previous video we have known there is a attractive force between the particles of matter, which is called intermolecular force or interparticle force. In solid state, the value of interparticle force or intermolecular force is high. So that Due to the high intermolecular force, the particles in the solid state of matter are very closely packed. And this, due to this closeness of the particles, in solid state of matter possesses hardness and rigidness. Sometimes students used to ask me about the salts, sugar, and the rubber bands. Students used to say, sir, rubber band changes its shape on pressing the rubber band. Sugar acquires the shape of the containers into which the sugar and the salts are kept. Dear student, please do not confuse. Rubber band, sugar and salts are solid. Rubber band changes its shape when we compress, when we apply a force to compress the rubber band. On compression, it changes its shape, and just on removing the external force applied on the rubber band, it regains its original shape. Whenever the excess force is applied on the rubber band to compress it, it breaks. And sugar and salts are also solid. We should not confuse about the physical state of sugar and the salts. When we used to keep the sugar or salt in our hand or keep it in any container, it acquires the shape of that container, but each individual crystal of the sugar and the salt has fixed shape. The shape of the individual particle crystal of the sugar and salt remains the same. Therefore, sugar, salts and rubber bands are solid state of matter. Characteristics of solid state of matter. Now we shall discuss some points about the solid state of matter under heading characteristics of solid state of matter. Solid possesses some identifying features which we study as the characteristics of solid state of matter. The first characteristic we derive from the definition of solid, that solid have definite shape and definite volume. The solids have fixed shape solids have fixed shape. The fixed shape of solid is the characteristic feature of it. When we place a crystal of solid, a crystalline state of solid, on in different containers, on different places, they possess the definite shape. Their shape does not change on changing the container of the solid and position of the solid. Why is it so? Because in solid state of matter, the constituent particles are very closely packed due to strong interparticle force, which is also called intermolecular force. So due to strong intermolecular force or strong interparticle force, the particles in the solid state of matter are so closely packed that they cannot move far from one another. Only the particles in the solid state of matter vibrates along its mean position. It possesses only vibratory motion. The particles of solid cannot go away from one another. Due to this closeness and high interparticle force between the particles of solid state of matter, solid possesses definite shape. Clear? Second characteristic feature of the solid is also we can derive from the definition we have read. Solids have definite volume. What does volume mean, dear students? What does volume mean? This is very simple term. Volume you have read in your previous classes. The space occupied by a matter, a substance, is called its volume. Solids occupies little space, compared to other states of matter, means compared to liquid and gaseous state of matter. And the volume of solid remains constant. Due to higher intermolecular force, the particles in the solid state of matter are closely packed. They cannot move away from one another. Therefore, they are the particles of solid keep themselves closely packed and occupies the same volume always. Means the volume of solid state of matter remains constant on changing the place and the containers. Please care, I am telling on changing position, place and container. I am not telling by changing the state of solid. The conditions I am not telling. On changing the condition, the volume of solid may change, which we shall discuss in another topic in this chapter, which is changes in states of matter, where we shall discuss about the factors which can affect the volume, the shape, the nature of the different states of matter. Right? Now, the next characteristic feature of solids, solids have high density. Solids have high density. Again, there is a term density which we should understand. You know, mass of a substance present per unit volume of the substance is called its density. The density we define like this: density is equal to mass upon volume. Means mass per unit volume. What does it mean? Try to understand. Suppose we have taken a cubic shape of solid. Suppose you have taken any solid whose shape is cubic and the side of the cube is 1 centimeter, suppose. The volume of the cube is equal to 1 centimeter into 1 centimeter into 1 centimeter, length into width into height, that is 1 centimeter cube. Means if you will take a piece of, suppose, if you will take a piece of iron metal, of cubic shape whose side is 1 centimeter, this volume will be 1 centimeter cube. Now, you measure the mass of the iron present in 1 cubic centimeter volume of the piece of iron, which will be considered, which will be the density of iron. Right? So density is defined as mass of a substance present per unit volume. In solid state of matter, since solid occupies less volume in comparison to other state of matter, that is liquid and gas. Therefore, density of solid is higher than liquid and gas. This is the third characteristic feature of solid. Now, the fourth characteristic feature of solid is intermolecular force. You can also take intermolecular force as one of the characteristic feature of the solid. Intermolecular force, you can say intermolecular force is higher in solid state of matter compared to other states of matter. Other states of matter, that is liquid and gases, liquids and gases. Therefore, we can say intermolecular force of solid is higher than intermolecular force of liquids is higher than intermolecular force of gases. Right? Intermolecular force is higher in solid state of matter compared to other states of matter, and other states of matter here with which we have to compare the characteristic of solids or liquid and gases. In order, we can write intermolecular force of solids are greater than intermolecular force of liquids, and intermolecular force of liquids are greater than intermolecular force of gases. The next characteristic feature of solid is compressibility. Compressibility is a property of a substance due to which the substance can change their shape on applying the external force, as we have discussed. In solid state of matter, the interparticle force is the intermolecular force or interparticle force in the solid state of matter is very strong, and the constituent particles in solid state of matter are very closely packed. Due to this closely packed and compact structure, of solid. And due to this closely packed structure of the constituent particles in the solid state of matter, there is a very small gap which is called intermolecular space, interparticle space, which is very, very less in solid state of matter. On applying external force on the solids, there is a little scope of for particles to come more close to one another, because they are already closely packed due to strong intermolecular force. Thus, we can say solids are almost, we can say solids are almost incompressible. Right? Now the another points which we can discuss as the characteristic of solid states of matter is the rigidity. Rigidity. What does rigidity mean? Rigidity means the fixed. The word fixed replaces the word rigid. Rigidity is the property of solid due to which we can say solids have fixed and rigid shape. And again, the explanation is the almost same in solid states of matter. Molecules or particles, constituent particles are very closely packed due to very strong interparticle or intermolecular force. Therefore, the particles of solids can only vibrate on its position. The constituent particles of solids have very, very less kinetic energy. Do you understand kinetic energy? Kinetic energy is a kind of mechanical energy which is due to motion of the particles. In solid states of matter, there is a little scope of motion of the constituent particles because they are held together with a strong force of attraction. So they do not possess higher kinetic energy. They have very, very less kinetic energy. And therefore, their particles are compelled to keep closed with one another, and hence solids have fixed or rigid shape. Clear? Now the next and the last characteristic feature which I would like to discuss with you about solid is diffusion. Diffusion. In the previous video, I have discussed the characteristics of particles of matter, in which I had described about the term diffusion. Diffusion means the process of intermixing of one substance with another substance on its own is diffusion. Now, solids, in solid states of matter, since constituent particles are held together by strong force of attraction, strong intermolecular force, they cannot move away from one another. So usually it is found solids do not diffuse, one solid do not diffuse into other solids. Means the intermixing of solids on its own is almost not seen. Rarely the diffusion between solids can be described by taking few examples and observing carefully under a considerable period of time. You may observe the diffusion between the solids. One common example is when we used to write on blackboard with chalk, which usually are not in use these days. When whiteboard and whiteboard markers were not available in the few years ago, when I was the student in your age, our teacher used to write with chalk on the blackboard, and if accidentally the blackboard was not cleaned after the class get over and the written subject matter on the blackboard were left for a week. After a week, it is observed that it becomes difficult to clean the blackboard because the chalk particles diffuses into the blackboard. It is an example of diffusion of solid into solid. Other examples you can also take from your homes. If one metal article, when one metal is kept tightly in contact with other metal for a long time. Here long time means for years. For few years if one metal are kept tightly in contact with the other metal, after few years their separation will be difficult due to the diffusion of their particles between the metals which are kept tightly packed for years and for few years. So, in conclusion, we can say commonly solids do not diffuse with solids, right? So these are characteristics of solid which we have discussed. Hello students, I think this is the sufficient discussion about solid state of matter up to your level. Dear student, you are very lovely and sweet for me. I am feeling myself very happy by providing help from my end by making some videos for you so that you can continue your study in chemistry even in this pandemic situation created for we all. I advise you all to stay at your home, continue with your study in all the subjects, keep yourself happy, save your time. This unfavorable time, I wish this will also pass. We shall overcome this situation. Today, I would like to share an important point with you that offline classes are also available with me for the students of 9th and 10th of CBSE board and the students of 11th and 12th of both Bihar School Examination Board as well as the students of CBSE board. Dear all, if you are getting benefit of my videos which I am making for you, I would like to request you to share these videos with your friends so that they can also get benefited.